In the heart of the third pole of the Earth, a landscape of eternal frost and razor-thin air, China did something that defied the warnings of engineers from every corner of the globe. It built a railway reaching altitudes of over 5,000 meters, slicing through hundreds of miles of permanent ice to create the highest plateau railway ever constructed. Building rail tracks at the edge of space is an extreme challenge that seems to violate the laws of physics. Costing over $4 billion and involving more than 100,000 workers, the Qinghai-Tibet Railway today does more than connect the forbidden city of Lhasa. It stands as a monument to human persistence. But how do you anchor heavy steel rails onto a ground that acts like a living, breathing block of ice? Join us as we uncover the secrets behind this massive project. For centuries, the Tibetan Plateau existed as a blank zone on the world's transport map. It was an immense and isolated fortress, guarded by the towering Kunlun and Tongula mountain ranges. In summer, the intense solar radiation can bake the surface, while in winter, temperatures plunge to a bone-chilling -40 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no natural infrastructure, and the oxygen levels are only half of those at sea level. Yet beneath this hostile ocean of ice and rock rest billions of tons of untapped resources, copper, zinc, and the liquid gold of salt lakes, materials essential for the global green energy transition. To access these reserves and integrate this remote frontier, China faced a stark reality. There was no alternative but to attempt what was once considered a scientific impossibility: constructing a high-capacity railway across the permafrost. The Hotan-Rokiang Railway in the Taklamakan had to fight shifting sand. The Qinghai-Tibet Railway had to fight living soil. About 550 kilometers of the track sits on permafrost, ground that stays frozen for years. The problem is twofold. In winter, the soil freezes and expands, a process called frost heaving, which can lift heavy tracks like they are made of paper. In summer, the top layer thaws into a muddy, unstable soup, causing the ground to collapse, a disaster known as thawing settlement. If you simply lay tracks on this ground, the heat from the train and the sun would melt the ice, leading to a catastrophic derailment. Engineers needed a way to keep the ground frozen, even in a warming climate. The first line of defense is a technological marvel that looks like a forest of steel. If you travel along the line, you will see thousands of 5-meter-long metal rods protruding from the embankments. These are called ammonia-based heat pipes, or thermosiphons. Each pipe is a self-regulating refrigerator. Inside the hollow tube is liquid ammonia. When the ground temperature rises slightly, the ammonia at the bottom boils and turns into vapor, carrying the heat to the top of the pipe where it is released into the cold air through cooling fins. Once cooled, the ammonia turns back into liquid and flows back down to start the cycle again. This passive system requires zero electricity, yet it continuously extracts heat from the ground, ensuring the permafrost stays rock solid beneath the tracks.
Just as 65% of the Taklamakan Railway runs on viaducts to let sand pass, the Qinghai-Tibet line uses dry land bridges to protect the ice. Over 150 kilometers of the railway is elevated on concrete pillars. These bridges aren't crossing rivers, they are crossing the most sensitive permafrost zones. By elevating the line, engineers prevented the railway's dark surface from absorbing heat and melting the ground below. Furthermore, it allows the cold plateau winds to sweep freely beneath the structure, providing natural ventilation that keeps the foundation stable. From above, these bridges look like a silver spine stretching across the white wilderness, a skeleton of steel and concrete unshaken by the shifting thermal layers. In the United States, the famous Alaska Railroad also faces the challenges of the subarctic. Most American lines in these regions still rely on the traditional passive adaptation method. This involves using thick layers of gravel or ballast and accepting that the ground will shift. Consequently, maintenance crews must constantly re-level the tracks as the seasons change, a costly and labor-intensive battle against nature. China, on the other hand, took a proactive prevention path. Given the extreme altitude and the difficulty of breathing, constant manual maintenance was not an option. Instead of loose stones alone, they integrated the heat pipes with ventilated embankments, layers of large fist-sized rocks that allow air to circulate and cool the core of the railway bed. While the initial investment was staggering, the result is a unified, high-precision structure that requires significantly less human intervention in an environment where oxygen is a luxury.
Now, we go to the construction site to see how they laid thousands of miles of track where humans can barely survive. Because of the 16,000-foot altitude, workers operated in oxygen-enriched modules and underwent rigorous medical checks every few hours. The track-laying process was a masterpiece of logistics. Just like the specialized machines in the desert, massive automated track layers were deployed. These machines lift pre-assembled sections of rail and sleepers, each weighing several tons, and place them with millimeter precision. To ensure the rails could survive the 80-degree temperature swings between day and night, engineers utilized continuous welded rail, or CWR. Instead of traditional joints that click-clack, these rails are joined using flash butt welding. A powerful electric current heats the rail ends to 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit until they fuse into a single seamless ribbon of steel. This eliminates the gaps where ice could form and prevents the stress fractures that would otherwise snap the rails in the brutal Tibetan winter.
After years of rigorous testing and the installation of thousands of IoT sensors to monitor ground temperature in real time, the Qinghai-Tibet Railway officially reached Lhasa in 2006. It remains the highest and longest plateau railway in the world. It proved that with enough ingenuity, the third pole could be bridged. You've now explored how engineers conquered the shifting sands of the Taklamakan and the frozen glass of the Tibetan Plateau. Which engineering feat do you think is more impressive, fighting the heat of the desert or the ice of the mountains? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.